Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Coach Ben with M.B.S. Health Coaching for Life. I just wanted to make a little small video today, no pun intended. I came across some interesting research whenever it comes to social media and mental health. I thought this was a pretty interesting topic to discuss simply because the scholarly article that I'm going to be referring to is derived from the International Journal of Psychology. So whenever you're considering mental health and social media usage, there's some things that you might want to consider whenever interacting on social media, how you use it, how often you use it, et cetera, et cetera. So, got some new shirts made, by the way. Pretty cool stuff. So I'm going to be referencing some notes here. So the types of social media platforms that I'm going to be speaking on are the typical ones that we all use: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all of these kinds of things, and how they relate and correlate along with typical mental health issues that we all face at some point or another. So whenever it comes to anxiety, there was actually a study performed in younger and adolescent adults, and it's the craziest thing that they even came up with a term for this, but basically the correlation with anxiety and mental health and the use of social media, they actually had to come up with a medical term for that constant sensation of like you checking your phone, taking it out your pocket. It's called phantom vibration syndrome. Whenever you have like this kind of inherent, almost instinctual urge to reach for your pocket because you thought you thought you felt your phone vibrate, or you thought you might have gotten a message. Well, that's essentially a feedback loop from your brain because our phones are so ingrained into our brain. It's like I'm still kind of dumbfounded every single day on how ingrained our phone and social media has become on a daily basis. So they came up with a term, and this is called phantom vibration syndrome. And in that same group, they also found that their anxiety levels were heightened because of the subconscious. Your lizard brain, if you will, is still constantly trying to check your phone, even though you didn't physically feel it vibrate or didn't hear it ring. I just thought that the psychology and the neurology behind that is like bizarre. I don't know. Just to me, that's quite bizarre. So overall, in that study group, this increased their overall stress levels, and it increased their stress levels because in the group, they weren't able to check their messages, and that's the way that the study was set up. So it almost replicated a form of separation anxiety because they felt separated from their phone actually working in the way that it was expected to. It's really bizarre that if your phone randomly breaks, or you lose service for a little while, your brain, it is already ingrained in our brain now that we start getting the remnants of social anxiety, the remnants of separation anxiety. And that's stuff that we learn, as infants. So they came up with an actual syndrome called phantom vibration syndrome because people's brain was telling their body, hey, I think your phone just went off. That's just so bizarre to me. I thought that was very, very interesting and very kind of weird and almost scary at the same time. So whenever it comes to anxiety in general, the use of social media and the use of your phone, it increased stress. It's just so bizarre to me. So when it comes to overall stress, just across the board, the articles that I looked at, when you use social media on a pretty consistent basis, like you're on it pretty much every day throughout the week, couple hours a day, stress across the board is higher. So, that's just something that you need to keep in mind whenever you're using all these kinds of platforms, because that's kind of the association that goes with it. If you use social media consistently and for hours per day, just in general, you're going to be more stressed, which has negative effects on your actual physical body. through all the hormones and the adverse effects of those particular hormones. So just try and moderate yourself on how many days per week or how many hours per day that you are using these platforms, because basically the more you use them, the higher your stress level is going to be, and the higher your stress level is going to be, the more consequences you're going to have for your body. Ironically and surprisingly, social media had a positive impact on depression. Now that's pretty interesting, simply because, and they didn't really explain it very clearly in the article, but essentially people that were very depressed, but while they're interacting or engaging and looking through photos on social media, their depression level seemed to kind of be tapered off as far as severity. So I've got a couple of ideas as to why this is, because most people that are experiencing depression, specifically, they have a chemical imbalance where they can't quite pinpoint. In most cases they can, but in some cases they can't quite pinpoint why they're sad, why they're depressed, or what's particularly going on. So I don't think that it's directly positively influencing their depression. It could be kind of a secondary coping mechanism and keeps their mind off of it for a while. But obviously through social media, there are good things about it, and there are benefits to it. So somebody that's experiencing depression, their depression severity seemed to improve. And that simply could be through communicating with family and friends and looking at photos and, watching funny videos, that kind of thing. So social media does have its benefits. So that was kind of surprising that depression severity seemed to taper off slightly through the use of social media. And the last point that I have to speak on was loneliness. And we've all been there. We've all done that. And it sucks. Well, social media is horrible for loneliness. Horrible. So whenever you're lonely or you don't have, you don't feel emotionally fulfilled, you feel like you're kind of left out and secluded, well, what does social media do? Social media shows you the rest of the world's real life highlights. And essentially, you get FOMO, which is like fear of missing out, and you are seeing everybody else living their best life, and it makes you feel worse. It makes you feel more lonely, more secluded, and it doesn't help the situation at all. So loneliness, according to this scholarly article through the International Journal of Psychology, they said it was like detrimental to loneliness and mental health the more that you use social media, because essentially it gives you even more of a sense of isolation, because you're seeing everybody travel the world, on trips, at family events, or hiking, etc., etc. And then what is that lonely person actually doing? They're sitting at home lonely, feeling secluded, and then they see all of these other people doing all these other great things. But it's really hard to differentiate when you're in that particular place, because other people aren't showing you the reality that they're living in. They're showing you a highlight reel, essentially. They're showing you all of the best and coolest pictures that they could ever get and all of the coolest trips that they're ever taken. But they're not, most people aren't posting about the drama, the stress, their crappy day at work. So that's just kind of something to take into account whenever it comes to loneliness and social media. It's pretty detrimental to people that are feeling lonely while they engage in social media. It actually just accelerates the severity of the loneliness and increases the isolation. So anyway, that's all that I got for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate your time, and I will see you again soon.